Hello, friends. Thanks for joining me on the Wise Practice Podcast. I am Whitney Owens, your host. I cannot believe I'm almost to 200 episodes for this podcast, and it's because of you that I've been able to get here. So, thank you so much for listening to the show, for downloading it, for sharing it with your friends, and for all your reviews and comments. They mean the world to me. When I get an email from someone who's listened to the show, or when someone fills out a consulting application and says, I learned about Wise Practice from the podcast, or your podcast on this changed my practice, it means the world to me. It is so interesting doing a podcast because you sit in front of a mic and you turn on the camera and you think, I hope somebody listens to this when I put it out there, or you feel like you're kind of talking to yourself, but I'm really talking to you. It's like you're all in a room with me. So it's an interesting dynamic. And so I just really love when I get the interaction with you guys. So if this show has meant something to you, if you feel like there was a specific episode that you really enjoyed, shoot me an email. Let me know. Whitney at wisepracticeconsulting.com. I always really enjoy the interactions with y'all. Now, let's get in it because you know me, I like to jump in and go deep, right? So the next few weeks, I'm doing some solo shows with you. I've been doing great interviews lately, but I also just really enjoy chatting with you. It's like you're here in my office, right? We're talking about the things about private practice. We're talking about the concepts of our faith and how do we run a practice that's ethical, that helps the community, that brings us profit, that serves the therapists that work for us, all the things. So I'm going to be bringing you some of my best stuff, and this is why. This has been a crazy year for private practice. It's really like been building, especially those of you that have been doing this a long time. You're seeing the changes that are going on. And so it's really hard to run a private practice. In fact, been telling people this for the past few weeks. I think it's harder now to start a private practice than it's ever been before, which is why you've got to know what to do. You've got to find community. You can't just wing it. Julie Ayers talked about this a few weeks ago when you heard her on the show. I think that was back at the end of June. She did an episode on kind of trends and things we're seeing financially and in private practice. But yeah, it used to be that you could just fall into it. And now you got to really work at building a practice. So I want to bring you some episodes that are going to give you some of it'll be a little tactical, but most of it is going to be about who we are as people and as leaders, because that's the stuff that's going to allow your practice to grow. So today's episode is the 5 habits that create effective leaders. This idea came to me while I was doing consult calls and I was talking to someone about the consult calls. And I was explaining to them, yeah, I can pretty much know if someone's going to be successful in a matter of minutes. And the person was like, what? Like, how do you know that? And I'm like, I guess I've been doing this a while. Like, I see the habits, I see the posture, the attitude. Now, I can't say with 100% certainty, but as I'm working with practice owners, especially in consulting, truly in the first consulting call or two, I can see what needs to happen or what's not happening, and I see those habits. I also have had to create these habits within myself. And so I want to tell you what those 5 habits are that bring somebody to success. But before we kind of do that, I want to talk about habits. Habits are the things that bring grounding, normalcy to the work that we do. Oftentimes, we look at the shiny object. Y'all, we're visionaries. We're excited, right? We see something or this idea. I mean, I hear practice owners all the time like, hey, I think I'm going to go get licensed in this other state because I think it's going to help me grow my practice. Or, hey, I'm going to go get trained in this other thing because that sounds like a good idea. Or, I'm going to hire a therapist because the practice down the street is doing it and I think that I should do it too. We just like chase after things, right? And a lot of times it's distracting. We're not moving in the direction we want to move. And don't take the time to create the habits that are going to get us to the next phase, right? Yesterday in our mastermind group that I lead for group practice owners, one of the owners, and I loved this question. She pulled this out of the Bible and some sermons she was hearing at church. And she said, I want to think through the difference between just chasing after success and sustainability. I was like, wow, like that's what we're talking about today. That is important stuff for us to consider. So, we're going to dive into what those 5 habits are that makes a practice owner successful. right? So I've got 5 here for us to run through. And these are habits that I'm doing in my own practice. I'm seeing them in consulting. And these are also conversations that we have in the membership community, conversations that we have at the Wise Practice Summit that we have with our group of practice owners. So the first one is choosing consistency over constant change, which is kind of what I was just mentioning. You are a visionary, right? You love marketing. You love websites. And I mean, we love like new things about websites. We love new ideas. So we start going after those things. We get excited about them. Or honestly, we're therapists. We are emotional beings. Now, being emotional beings is not a bad thing, but I think sometimes we're a little bit more emotional than most people. I can speak from experience. I will have something come up. In fact, something happened yesterday, actually. And immediately I'm like, oh, and I get so mad. And I'm like, I got to fix this. I got to do this. I got to blah. And I was like, wait, I got to take a breath. I don't have to fix this now. It can be taken care of tomorrow. So as visionaries, it's like we're darting around everywhere. The next crisis, the next thing, we're running to those things and we forget everything else. So for example, our marketing has a bad week, our website tanks. And then we're like, oh, I gotta do this, gotta do this, gotta change this. Who am I gonna work with? Yeah, it's not always like that. I just interviewed several marketing experts on the podcast the past few episodes, and we talked about consistency in marketing. It's not just because something dips for 1 second, we make some big change. It's consistently growing over time and in making that investment. Maybe your caseload dips and you start freaking out that I shouldn't be a practice owner, or you like this is where I'm at right now, actually, with my practice. I've had tons of turnover with my clinician. So it's easy for me to say, I'm not going to hire again. This is too stressful. Or who am I to be a group practice owner? But this habit of consistency is so important. So instead of freaking out or only hiring when someone leaves, I'm going to be consistently hiring all the time. That's been a very new thing for me this year. In fact, we hired 6 people between March and the end of May. Now, did we have 6 positions? No. But we knew there will be turnover. Let's be ready. And I can't be more grateful because someone put in their notice in June, left in July. Her replacement had already been hired. We didn't even know she was going to be leaving. So it worked out really well. So then she was able to seamlessly transfer her clients to this other therapist. So consistency in what you do, not being distracted by what everyone else is doing, right? Growth is built on consistency. And y'all, consistency is sometimes really boring or annoying. I think about, and I've said this on the show before, because this always really influenced. I just thought this was a really good behavior. I had a practice owner who really wanted to grow her practice, and she was blogging every Tuesday after work. And she hated it. She was like, I don't want to go home and do this. But she did it every week. Talk about boring, annoying, time consuming. But guess what? Her practice exploded. It's consistency that gets you to that place of excitement and growth. And it does pay off in the end. So think about, what is it that you're chasing in your practice and what needs to be more consistent. Habit number 2, building leaders, not just employees, not just team members. So early on in my career, I had a solo practice. I started a group practice, and I even got to, I don't know, 15, 18 therapists. And I didn't have a really solid leadership team. It was all about me and it depended all on me. And I I was dealing with crisis or situations without thinking long term. And as I've developed and grown, I'm realizing that I can't just hire therapists, do your job, and then just keep rotating. Or I can't just tell employees what to do, maybe tell my intake person or my assistant what to do, and not really develop leadership skills. And I think this is really hard for us as business owners. We didn't go to school to learn about business. You obviously probably have some leadership ability. You wouldn't be a practice owner if you didn't. But we want to invest in leaders, not just people. So, a great example of this is I had a therapist who would reach out to me after every meeting and was feeling some insecurity after the meetings. Always wondering, did I say the right thing? Is Whitney upset with me? Things like that. I could just plug the hole and write back and say, "You're doing great. I'm really proud of you," and just leave it at that. But I thought to myself, I want to develop a leader here. So instead of just fixing the issue that was right in front of me, taking the time to consider, how can I help this therapist grow in confidence to be able to do the job well? And so that maybe this person would one day be in my seat, leading meetings and helping other therapists and develop them. So I have another therapist that is having some turnover. So instead of just fixing, saying, we're only going to give you these types of clients, right? Going and saying, hey, how can I help this person develop the skills to keep moving forward, and having those honest conversations with people. I think sometimes we are at max capacity as practice owners. So then we don't take the time to invest in our team members. But when we don't invest in our team members, we're just perpetuating the cycle of them needing us all the time. So the end of 2024, yeah, I started thinking about, okay, I need to rethink this leadership team. And this was when I opened my second location. So I was like, I've got to have some leadership out there. I can't be everywhere. So that was when I brought on now my COO. And he slowly moved into leadership, but it was an investment. When things came up, instead of just plugging the hole, I would take the time to sit and talk through things. Where are you at emotionally? What are you seeing going on in the practice? How can we strategize on this thing? Instead of it being like me going, okay, I want you to do this and this and this and this. So we're developing leaders. In the middle of 2025, I really invested in a solid leadership team. Now, I had leadership. I had kind of like bits and pieces of a leadership team, but I really brought us together in a more structured way, depending on each other. Now we're over a year out from that. And I can say with certainty, it's one of the best things I ever did in my practice. I feel so supported. The practice is going so much further. We're accomplishing way more goals. So I want to tell you that habit number 2 is investing in leaders, not just telling people what to do. You're delegating, you're empowering people to go to the next level. Now, habit number 3, knowing your numbers. Knowing your numbers. Now, this goes back a little bit to what we were talking about in the earlier about being emotional. As clinicians, we see something happening, and as therapists and business owners, we see something happening and then we're like, oh no, that's not working. I'm concerned. And we make gut decisions, which sometimes gut decisions can be helpful, but we need to make data-driven decisions. I cannot say this often enough. And sadly, a lot of us don't want to look at the data. All the time when I say to somebody, tell me about your finances, therapists don't want to talk about it. I say to practice owners, tell me about your intake and your conversions. They have no idea what it is. So you want to change your marketing and do something different, but you actually don't even know how many clients are coming in? That's not good. You want to hire or you want to pull back on paying for something, but you actually don't even know what percentage you're paying yourself or what money's coming in. You haven't looked at your expenses on a regular basis. And we could do many episodes on these topics, right? There are reasons why people are feeling uncomfortable about that. But your business will never go to the next level if you don't know the data. And you've got to track your data on a very regular basis. I plan to do more episodes on this topic because I think data is one of the things in my practice that has made the world a difference. So just to give you a quick snippet of some things that we track on a regular basis, I track how the SEO is going and how our website looks. We track the number of inquiries, the conversion of those inquiries based on the person that's answering the phone. We track our Google ads. Are the ads actually converting when they call? And how many sessions are they coming for? And how long are they at the practice? Because Google ads is expensive. I want to make sure that the money I'm spending on them is actually worthwhile. So we're tracking that as well. We're tracking every therapist, how many sessions they do. We're tracking the churn ratio, so that's ability to keep clients, not churn them out. We're tracking the average length of stay for a client, how many sessions they stay for. There are some more metrics, but that is a big part of it because knowing my data is going to help me make the best decisions in my practice, and it's going to help me see what's working, what's not working. Another great example, years ago, talk about shiny object. I thought it'd be so cool to be in the Savannah magazine. So I live in Savannah, Georgia. This magazine is very popular here, and they have a special edition once a year that's for healthcare. And so this one goes into all the offices for healthcare in the city. And so you could pay, at the time it was $800. And I remember thinking that was huge. I had, I don't know, 4 or 5 therapists at this point. And so they were going to have a photographer come, take a picture of the team, and we answered some questions about who we are and what we do. And look, I thought I was like a micro celebrity here in Savannah. I was like, this is big time. This is going to be great, right? I got one phone call from that. So looking back, not a great investment. It felt like a good investment. It sounded like a good investment. And maybe a practice owner had told me it worked in their town, but it didn't work for me. But I would not know that if I didn't track my data and look at it and understand it. So now I know, hey, most of our clients come from the website and SEO. So most of my money goes in that direction. And that's going to help me make more informed decisions. So making sure that you have a way to track those inquiries, that you decide what they are. And I know that you might be listening to this and like, oh my gosh, Whitney, this is so overwhelming. Just take one data point that you can start tracking. Maybe that's looking at your money every other week. Maybe that's looking at your intake calls every week. And I know you might be thinking you're talking to group owners. Look, I'm talking to solo owners too. You can look at your money, and it's important that you are, that you're paying yourself well, and that you're tracking inquiries, KPIs. Those are key performance indicators. You're tracking that data in your practice. So maybe first consider the 5 most important ones and work towards that. All right, habit number 4. Expect change instead of resisting it. Expect change instead of resisting it. Change is going to happen in your practice. I was thinking about the Bible verse the other day where I believe it's in John, where Jesus says, prepare for stuff to happen, but I have overcome the world. Being a practice owner, doing mental health. So owning a business already says you're going to have to pivot and have change. Being in mental health, crisis happens, you better be ready for it. You should just anticipate that things will not always go the way you want them to. And the more team members you have in your practice, the more people involved in anything, you're going to have even more of that. And I think when I was a younger practice owner, I expected everything to just run smoothly and go the way that I wanted it to go. And that created a lot of anxiety for me. I was holding on too tightly. And I am learning now to let go more. That, hey, I might put a marketing plan in place and it might not work, but I'm going to track my data and I'm going to pivot. I can invest in team members and have the best culture out there, but not everyone's going to stay. I also am going to make mistakes, right? It's not always going to go the way I want to. There's so much uncertainty and change that will happen in your practice. I can tell you so many costly mistakes. I can think of like 3 costly mistakes I have made in the past few months. It's going to happen. Things are not controllable, but the more that you expect change to happen and you can just roll with it and you can make changes with it, then you're going to have a more sustainable practice. So don't expect consistency all the time and expect change to happen. Another aspect of this is the way that we get feedback from our team members. And I think I used to receive feedback and I would freak out. I would think that I have to change everything because this is what this person wants. And I was constantly pivoting for the therapists, right? I didn't want to lose somebody, or they think this is what they want. I want them to have a happy work environment. I have now learned that I've got to focus on taking care of the business. If I serve the business well, the business will serve the therapists, right? Or the team members, and then we will all grow together. And so just because someone in your practice comes to you and says, you're doing this wrong, you should change this, that is not necessarily true. Do not let that make you make changes. You can certainly listen, consider it, but if it's just one person, don't let that change everything. Be open to feedback, but don't constantly change for somebody else. And I think that when we do that, we lose our consistency. So you want to be steady to what it is that you want and move towards that. But at the same time, know that it won't always work out the way you want it to. As long as you keep walking towards what your goals and what you want, change is going to happen around you, but you're going to be solid. And I think that goes back to having that solid leadership team by your side, because that really helps in that process. So thinking through right now, maybe a question to consider is, what are you resisting as a leader instead of learning? And how can you lean into the change that's happening in your practice? And the fifth habit, these kind of go a little hand in hand, is staying grounded in something bigger than your practice. So sometimes we can get so into our practice, it becomes almost like our identity. Or people talk about how much money they make, and that's their identity. Or your therapists that work for you, or your team, or even the clients that you serve become your identity. But let's go back to why you started your practice. You felt called by God to do something bigger. You had a niche population that you wanted to serve. You wanted to be able to make money and profit and give back to the church or give back to the community. And then we get into our practice, it becomes so overwhelming with all the details and looking at all the things. So instead of looking around, I want you to come right back to your faith. That's the very reason why you do what you do. And that is our grounding time. I was just sitting in church this past week, listening to the choir sing about, I want Jesus more than money. I want Jesus more than success. And I just felt teared up. I was like, yes, like there's so much change in my own practice right now, but I long for what Christ wants for me and for my business more than anything else. And I have to stay stable through that. So another thing that really helps me with this is we hire therapists based on their character, their values, and who they are, not just based on clinical skills. So that's what we do here. And I think that I'm hiring people that are our values, and our values, even though it's humility, integrity, it's not being a Christian, but those mindsets, those values are faith-based. Integrity, reliability, humility. And so we hire based on those things. I'm hiring people that are doing the things of faith, and it grounds me in that. So I don't know what that might mean for you. Is it may be coming back to what your faith is, coming back to your mission, but that is the thing that's driving me forward, even when the practice might feel unstable. I'm looking at my data, I'm moving in my mission, and I'm doing it with my leadership team. So, as we kind of recap this episode, the best practice owners are the ones that stay consistent, they develop leaders, they know their numbers, they expect change in their practice, and they're grounded in their faith. You're not going to master this overnight, it's one step at a time. And as you find things happening in your practice, you'll probably come back to this and remember, oh, yeah, in that episode, we talked about this. We grow through these experiences. You will make mistakes, and you got to be okay with them and move forward and not just sit in them. And we grow faster in community than in isolation. When you hear the stories of other practice owners, when you come together and have conversations about these issues, about our development, about our faith, that is when we move to the next level. This is why we have the Wise Practice Summit. It is October 8th through the 10th in Nashville, Tennessee at the Sheraton Hotel. This is when we have not only practical strategies through the talks that you're going to experience on marketing and practice growth and acceptance and commitment therapy and how to bring therapy into the classrooms, all those things we're going to talk about. But we're also going to develop as leaders together. We will talk about operations and finances. We will talk about hiring and marketing, but we will talk about who we are as Christian practice owners. At this event, you will be able to connect with other sponsors that are going to help you do this work. We have marketing SEO experts. We have accounting experts. We have people that help with the insurance side of your practice. We have virtual assistant companies that will be there. You will have a variety of people in one room, such experts to connect with. You will meet other faith-based practice owners who understand your unique challenges. This is the only conference that I know of that's specifically for Christian practice owners to grow on the business side. And you can earn up to 12 continuing education hours through MBCC. I want you to leave with a plan. I don't want you to just come and get inspiration. I want to be tactful and thoughtful in what we provide to you. This event is my favorite time of year, and I absolutely love it. And I can't tell you how many practice owners show up at this event that I've never met, and they say, I heard it on the podcast. I've been listening to your show for years. And I'm like, wow, we get to meet. So we take a selfie and we chat, and it's just the coolest thing ever. And I can learn from you too. Please consider coming to the summit. You will not regret it. And I just heard another story yesterday of a practice owner talking about what the summit meant to her last year. I know someone in my mastermind group, she came to the summit 3 years ago. She comes every year. She was a solo practice owner, and now she's got like 5 or 6 therapists in her practice, and she's doing amazing work. And it's not about the numbers. It's about the impact we can have in our communities, right? The impact we can have as practice owners doing God's work. So join me for the Wise Practice Summit. You can get all the information on the website. Thank you for being with me today on the show. I absolutely love hanging out with you and sharing with you. And I look forward to the next few weeks on the podcast where we're going to go deep on solo shows and helping you grow your private practice.